President Donald Trump tried to corner Canada. He thought he could bully a country of 40 million people and treat it the same way he treats a local contractor he refuses to pay. Reports say that during a closed-door meeting, Trump leaned across a heavy wooden table, looked directly at Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney, and called him governor to his face. It was not a slip of the tongue. It was a weapon. A deliberate hint that he believes Canada is just the 51st American state. He expected Carney to get angry. He expected him to lose his cool and give him a reality TV moment. But Mark Carney did not blink. He did not yell. He did not rush to social media at 3 in the morning. He nodded, flew back to Ottawa, and quietly pulled a lever Washington forgot existed. Within 48 hours, the consequences began spreading across the American Northeast. Behind closed doors, the U.S. administration had thrown down an ultimatum filled with tariff threats, economic pressure, demands for border changes, higher defense spending, and trade concessions that heavily favored the United States. Trump believed he held all the cards and assumed Canada would fold. But Carney is not a traditional politician. He ran the Bank of Canada and later the Bank of England. He understands the plumbing of the global economy in a way very few leaders do. When Trump insulted him, Carney did not respond with a dramatic press conference. Instead, Canada announced a strategic domestic review of hydroelectric and natural gas exports. The language was polite and bureaucratic. The timing was not. It was a shot across the bow. Canada supplies massive amounts of electricity to New York and New England, the power that keeps Boston running, the energy that keeps Wall Street servers humming, and the heat that prevents millions from freezing during winter. Trump believed tariffs were the ultimate weapon, but he forgot that you cannot run an economy in the dark. New York and New England are deeply wired into the Canadian grid. For decades, they have relied on cheap hydropower from Quebec. Water flows through Canadian dams, spins turbines, and electricity crosses south 24 hours a day. During winter, freezes, or summer heat waves, Canadian energy acts as a safety valve, preventing system collapse. Carney did not cut the cord, which would have violated treaties and looked like an act of aggression. Instead, Canada strictly enforced existing technical limits and prioritized Canadian citizens first. The message was simple. Montreal and Toronto come first, and the United States gets what is left. Markets reacted immediately. Natural gas futures in the U.S. Northeast spiked, and grid operators sent urgent internal memos. If Canada even slightly throttles power, the United States must rely on older, more expensive oil and gas plants that take hours to activate and cost a fortune to run. Wholesale electricity prices jumped, and that cost lands directly on American utility bills. Behind the scenes, reports suggest Washington descended into quiet panic. Governors in Massachusetts and New York began making urgent calls, not just to the White House, but to Ottawa. They understood the leverage shift. Trump's tariff threats handed Canada the political cover to squeeze energy flows without formally breaking agreements. Trump's strategy relies on escalation and intimidation, a tactic that works only when the other side lacks leverage. But Canada's leverage is embedded directly into the American power grid. The chain reaction is visible. Tariff threats cause companies to pause investments. Supply chains hesitate. Border uncertainty slows logistics. Energy pressure compounds the instability. Higher energy costs ripple through manufacturing, technology, housing, and consumer prices. Trump cannot easily back down without appearing weak, but pushing forward risks, rising living costs, and potential blackouts. You cannot bully a megawatt, and you cannot sanction winter weather. Trump assumed Canada was weak because it is polite, but he misread the balance of power. He thought he was playing checkers while Carney was playing global chess. Carney's strategy is quiet precision. Trump swings a sledgehammer while Carney uses a scalpel. He is composed, globally connected, and respected by financial markets. European leaders treat him as a peer. While Trump isolates and pressures, Carney diversifies Canada's trade relationships in Europe and Asia and reinforces Canada's global credibility. He understands that modern power is not just military strength. It is supply chains, critical minerals, water resources, and energy flows. Canada holds oil, natural gas, uranium, and hydroelectric capacity. By lightly touching the brakes on exports, Carney sent a message that Wall Street immediately understood: Canada is sovereign and respect matters. This tension is not abstract. Canada influences grocery prices, fuel supplies, lumber markets, auto parts, and now grid stability. For more than a century, the U.S.-Canada relationship was stable and deeply integrated, with the longest undefended border in the world, and two economies so intertwined, it was difficult to see where one ended and the other began. That trust is now strained. When electricity prices rise in New York, that cost reflects policy tension. When auto plants in Michigan slow because border friction disrupts parts from Windsor, the economic spillover becomes real. America First risks becoming America alone. Carney did not raise his voice. He raised the cost of ignoring Canada. He exposed a bluff. Trump demanded surrender, but markets recalculated risk instead. Three possible paths now stand ahead. In one scenario, there is a quiet walkback. Utility companies, tech giants, and governors apply intense behind-the-scenes pressure, leading Trump to quietly exempt Canadian energy and key goods from tariffs while publicly claiming victory. Power continues flowing, but the relationship remains damaged. In a second scenario, escalation takes hold. Border inspections slow trade dramatically. Canada tightens energy exports, further citing domestic needs, and prices spike in the Northeast, possibly leading to blackouts during extreme weather. In a third scenario, U.S. courts intervene and challenge the legality of sweeping tariff orders, easing immediate tensions, but leaving long-term trust fractured as Canada accelerates diversification away from reliance on the U.S. market. This moment illustrates a broader shift. Power in the modern world is about interdependence and infrastructure. It is about who controls the switches behind the scenes. Trump wanted a war of words, but Canada responded with systems and structural leverage. He expected outrage and received calculation. When two economies are this integrated, pressure on one side reverberates instantly on the other. The North American system was built on trust and predictability. Once that foundation shakes, consequences travel faster than speeches. You cannot run factories, hospitals, data centers, or homes without stable energy. You cannot restructure trade relationships overnight without ripple effects. And you cannot assume that a deeply integrated partner has no counterweight. Carney did not need a viral confrontation. He needed timing, numbers, and leverage embedded in infrastructure. He reminded Washington that alliances are not obedience. They are mutual dependence. Trump aimed for dominance, but triggered recalibration instead. Whether this resolves quietly or escalates further, the reality remains that Canada holds significant leverage within the North American energy network, and modern economies reward those who understand systems over slogans. The old assumption of automatic compliance is gone. What replaces it depends on whether leaders choose escalation or equilibrium. But one thing is certain: in a world powered by interconnected grids and supply chains, even a single insult can ripple through markets, utility bills, and geopolitical strategy.